Welcome back. Hispanic Americans have built a legacy of activism and change in our communities.
That change is transforming working conditions in the farm fields, bringing culture and important stories to the stage and silver screen, and creating opportunities to build stronger communities.
And on the front lines of activism, you'll find a community leader in Nebraska, a Hollywood writer and director and co-founder of the United Farm Workers Union. Stephanie Munez begins with her story.
Dolores Huerta has spent more than 50 years organizing peaceful demonstrations in the U.S., advocating for farm workers, immigrants, and women in the United States. She worked alongside Cesar Chavez, creating the United Farm Workers Union. Her work prompted a consumer grape boycott that eventually led to the Agriculture Relations Act in 1975, which allowed farm workers to bargain for better wages and working conditions. But even with these accomplishments, the outcomes were not always peaceful.
Was badly battered or had my ribs broken, pulverized my spleen, and I almost died for doing peaceful protests.
We are still seeing similar protests today. In the summer of 2020, the Black Lives Matter movement caused a stir throughout the nation. Huerta says the idea of what role police officers have are many times skewed within communities of color.
Now police are looked on not as protectors, they're looked on as predators. And, they do this racial profiling.
She says making sure future generations understand what came before is key to building our future.
We know the contribution of our folks, people from our ethnic group, to society. It gives us a feeling of confidence. It gives us a feeling of pride so that we can be proud of who we are.
Huerta says in her case, her pride to be Latina goes back to her roots in New Mexico generations ago, with the marriage of her Spaniard great-great-grandfather and a Pueblo Indian woman.
I found out that I have a great 14th generation grandmother named Inez, who was a Pueblo Indian. And that fills me with so much pride.
She asked people to speak up and continue the fight against racism.
That we have to put these issues, the changes that we want, have to be put into legislation. Legislation into a law that can be implemented, that can be enforced, and where people can be held accountable.
To build greater equality in our communities.
Born in Delano, California, in a labor camp, Luis Valdez became interested in theater at 6 years old.
And I told my mom the play's on Friday. She says, I can't help that. We're being evicted. So I was never in the play. And that left a hunger.
A hunger for drama, while deeply committed to the United Farm Workers struggle. In 1965, at 25 years old, he joined Cesar Chavez as a volunteer in the Delano grape strike. There, on the picket lines, Valdez El Teatro Campesino, the Farm Workers Theater, was born.
And it was this car caravan that went out in search of scabs in the fields. And then we pulled off by the side of the road whenever we found one. And that's where all of the picketing and the chanting took place. And that is where our first performances took place, right by the side of the road.
And you're doing this all out of the back of a truck?
Yes. We used a lot of humor and a lot of physical comedy.
Valdez used theater to inspire social change. In 1966, members of the theater marched from Delano, California, in Kern County, to Sacramento, California, attracting national media attention.
And so the word got out. All of that led to the evolution of the Teatro Campesino as a theater company, but better yet, it led to the spread of the news that the farm workers were not just docile idiots. We were alive, and we were fighting for our human rights for everybody.
Valdez went on to write a play about the 1943 Los Angeles Zoot Suit riots. The riots were violent clashes in which U.S. servicemen, off-duty police, attacked young Latino and Mexican Americans in L.A. Valdez Zoot Suit became the first play written by a Latino on Broadway and went on to become the first Chicano major feature film in 1981.
The press has distorted the very meaning of the word Zoot Suit. All it is for you guys is another way to say Mexican without insulting your allies south of the border.
Other successes included his box office hit film La Bamba in 1987. He won countless awards, including a Peabody. His scripts are taught in classrooms, performed on high school and college stages. Staying true to his roots, Valdez is still going strong and making a difference at his internationally renowned Obie Award-winning theater in San Juan Bautista.
It's important that our stories be told as honestly as possible, and that there be authentic voices that are speaking from the heart.
When he was only a toddler, Paco Fuentes and his family emigrated from the heartland of Mexico to the heartland of the United States, Omaha, Nebraska. His father, a talented basket weaver, wanted just a bit more for his children.
I had really good friends. I enjoyed school, but I was aware of the differences. I was very aware that we were from Mexico and that we were working class.
Determined to build a life of his own, Fuentes was uplifted by Latino mentors and organizations in South Omaha, a vibrant community filled with immigrants.
I was able again to receive skills, opportunities, mentorship that I probably wouldn't have gotten if it weren't for them.
And one particular place called the Boys Club became his second home until he was 18.
And I remember just being amazed at all the things that it had. It had pool tables, a swimming pool. We ate for a quarter. I fell in love. Love at first sight. It was a safe place, and I stayed out of trouble. And so it was a great place to grow up.
Then at 19, Fuentes joined the Air Force, serving his country for over 2 decades in military intelligence, traveling all over the world. A year after retirement, Fuentes circled back to his first love, the Boys Club, now known as the Boys and Girls Club.
My first 20 years in the military, which includes one war, prepared me for Boys and Girls Club.
With a neglected building, a revolving door of directors, the club needed some TLC.
And from the very beginning, I felt that we could be a world-class organization.
Fuentes took charge, pushing kids towards academic success, helping young men escape gang life, and bringing the community a bit closer together.
It was just a wonderful ride, but it was a lot of work.
Only 5 years as director, his club was ranked in the top 25 around the globe. The following year, the once modest program earned an award as the best. But for Fuentes, the awards were not the rewards.
So the biggest testament was when my club kids left, had families, and would bring their kids back. That's probably the biggest compliment. Hey, I grew up here. This was good enough for me. This is good enough for my kids. I've decided to dedicate my life to closing the gap between the haves and the have-nots.
Next, as we celebrate Hispanic heritage.
Music is the universal language. Music brings you peace, brings you harmony in your life.
Using history and tradition to inspire hope and unity for the next generation.